Jake Brandon here with CougarBoard, and this evening we're joined by Pepe Tanuvasa. Pepe, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself to everybody who may not know you as well. What position do you play? What year are you? All that.
So I am a redshirt senior. I just got moved back to Mike, linebacker. I graduated in 2015, served a mission until 2017. I originally was at Navy and then transferred over in 2019. And started out at Mike, went to OE, or like kind of a DN, stand-up DN last year, and then I'm back at Mike.
Very cool. So let's just real quick talk about Coach Neil Montalolo.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. You played for him for a year at Navy?
Yeah, for 2 years.
Or 2 years at Navy.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to us about Coach.
Man, he is the man. I don't know if you've seen
Meet the Mormons?
Meet the Mormons.
Yeah.
Meet the Mormons. But he's exactly like how he is in there.
Yeah.
Super humble, down to earth guy, and then will outwork you. 10 days out of 10.
That's
and
awesome.
He's amazing.
And you transferred from Navy to BYU, and then in 2020 you guys ended up playing Navy against Coach Neil Montalolo and staff. Were you able to provide any insight onto how they run things or things they like to do with that? Tell us about that, like helping the team, because it's a unique offense.
Yes,
you're not seeing that offense very often. So
yeah, I was able to, the coaches did ask for my input, and I was able to assist them as much as I could. I like to think that we did a great job because we did well, and so. I wish, looking back, I wish I had known the defense a little bit better. As a younger guy, you're mostly just kind of wrap your head around everything. And so I didn't know the defense as well as I would have liked. And so I wasn't able to help as well. But all the natural instincts were still there come game time, having practiced against it for years.
Yeah, it looks and develops the same way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Windows opening where they open, guys moving how they move.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that game, it felt like the defense was just like playing with their hair on fire. And so they're Navy hadn't done live practices. And I'm sure that was a factor. 100% that was a factor. But do you feel like it was Coach Tuyaki and his prep was a big factor too? Because it didn't feel like they were slow. It just felt like we were reacting fast. Like we were ready for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that.
Yeah, huge props to Coach Tuyaki. He got us well prepared for what Navy had to throw at us. And so I think his insights, as well as Coach Clune, who had just recently been added on staff, he had been a defensive coordinator at Memphis and had played Navy every year. And so, he had seen and studied, their triple option quite extensively. And so I'm sure he had some input as well.
So triple option, double wing mostly, single wing. What formation do you think his base formation would be?
Double wing.
Double wing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I heard when he first got hired, he only had installed like 2 or 3 plays, and word got back to people in the athletic department like, "Hey, this guy's only got like 2 or 3 plays. He's not ready to this." And they went out and just smoked somebody, and he's like, "I didn't want to install anymore until those plays were perfect, and we can win a football game with 2 or 3 plays if we're executing and blocking it the right way." Talk to him about like that as a coach, as a tactician, as like in the fundamentals.
I mean, he is all about the fundamentals, and so I could tell. I haven't heard that story, but I could totally see it, because I've heard a saying. I'm going to butcher it. I've only heard it once, but you don't fear the man that's practiced 10,000 different kind of punches, right? You fear the man that's practiced one punch 10,000 times, right? And I thought, when you told me that story, that's what I thought of is. He's mastered those 1 or 2 plays, but those plays can definitely win them a game. Yeah. And at Navy, I saw our offense tear apart defenses just with those 1 or 2 plays.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. So then you transition over to BYU. What's some of the differences in, obviously the offensive scheme is drastically different, but maybe what are some of the differences you've seen in scheme from what you ran at Navy versus what you ran at BYU? Or is it mostly similar? What would you say?
I think while I was at Navy, it wasn't as much. We didn't face as many RPO teams and spread teams, and so that was a huge transition coming over. We like to play a little bit more patient here at BYU, and so that was a hard transition for me. Was to kind of rework how I've played kind of my whole life, and so That was a huge change for sure.
Yeah, you got to slow play
Mm-hmm.
before you go fully commit to it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about RPO teams. Coastal ran, I think, the most, well, some of it's zone read with the bubble option, but they ran some true RPO too. Do you feel like they're one of the teams that uses RPO the most that you played? Or who's a team you think runs a lot of RPO where you really got to sit in your windows and then come sprinting in late if it's a give? Or
Yeah, our Coastal, I remember as we had prepped for them, the short time that we had, what we had from our scouting report, we had a lot of
48 hours. The 48 hours you had.
That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
But I remember specifically training for RPOs.
Yeah.
But then come game time, that we didn't see that many.
Traditionally they run a lot.
Yes.
But I think that you guys ran an 8-man backfield more, and that's hard on RPO. So then if you play the numbers game, if you're reading the box and playing the numbers, you got to lean into those run game more, and that seems to be what they did. And I think it was a good bet by our D to say, hey, let's see you run against our size and our strength. And they wanted it, and they did well. But yeah, I don't think we saw the RPO because you guys did actually prep decently for the 48 hours. Because if you watched, I mean, if you watched tape, but I watched them a lot. They run the same offense I ran at Spanish Fork High when I was the OC there. I think it's the best offense because it gives you numbers advantage and it's super hard to defend. But I love what they do with the RPO and that. So, but I think you guys prepped it really well, honestly. If there's, a couple of things that break our way and traveling across the country, 40 hours notice. But yeah, that was an impressive game. You kind of like dictated, made it one-dimensional in that game.
Yeah.